What if death was not the end, but a transformation? What if your body could survive not for years, not for centuries, but for thousands of years? No machines, no modern chemicals, no technology. Only a process invented when mammoths still walked the earth. This is the story of an ancient Egyptian secret so advanced, modern science is still trying to understand it. And it's also the story of one modern man who willingly gave his body to bring that secret back to life. To ancient Egyptians, death was not something to fear. Decay was. They believed the soul lived on after death, but it needed a physical home to return to. If the body was destroyed, the soul would be lost forever. So preservation was not cosmetic, it was spiritual survival. That belief shaped everything: religion, medicine, chemistry, anatomy, and it gave birth to one of the most sophisticated body preservation systems the world has ever seen. The mummification process always began the same way: a small incision, made carefully on the left side of the abdomen. Why the left? Because it allowed access to the internal organs while minimizing visible damage. The Egyptians understood something critical. Decomposition begins from the inside. The digestive tract contains trillions of bacteria. Left untouched, those bacteria would destroy the body within days. So the organs were removed one by one: the liver, lungs, intestines, stomach, each handled with extreme care. This was not butchery, it was precision surgery. But there was one organ they refused to remove: the heart. To us, the brain defines who we are, but to ancient Egyptians, the heart was everything: memory, wisdom, personality, morality. They believed the heart would be weighed in the afterlife to judge a person's soul. Remove the heart, and the soul would have no voice. So the heart stayed exactly where it was. Once the organs were removed, the body was no longer whole, so the Egyptians rebuilt it. They packed the empty body cavity with linen bundles soaked in resins and oils. This served two purposes. It restored the body's natural shape and absorbed moisture from the inside. The goal was simple but ambitious: make the body look alive long after death. For centuries, historians believed all Egyptian mummies had their brains removed through the nostrils. The brain was considered useless, disposable. But modern imaging told a different story. X-rays of royal mummies revealed something shocking. The brain was still there, shrunken, compressed, but preserved. This discovery shattered long-held assumptions. If the brain could survive naturally, then removing it wasn't always necessary. Ancient embalmers were not following one rigid rule. They were adapting. Thousands of years later, scientists asked a dangerous question. What if the ancient Egyptians were better at preservation than we are? To find out, a modern man volunteered his body. No modern chemicals, no preservatives, no shortcuts. Only authentic ancient Egyptian methods. It was one of the boldest experiments ever attempted in the study of death. The greatest threat to any dead body is not time, it's water. The human body is about 70% water, and water fuels decay. If moisture remains in tissue, bacteria multiply, enzymes activate, and destruction becomes inevitable. So the body had to be dried completely, inside, outside, every cell. The solution was natron, a naturally occurring salt found in Egyptian desert lake beds. Natron does three critical things: draws moisture out of tissue, creates an alkaline environment, kills bacteria and enzymes. But scientists discovered something extraordinary. Royal mummies contained salt crystals beneath the skin. That meant natron had entered the body itself. There was only one way salt could reach that deep. The body must have been submerged in a natron solution.
At first, the idea sounded insane. Water normally accelerates decay, but chemistry told a different story. In the correct concentration, a highly alkaline salt solution could stop decomposition entirely. Against all instincts, the body was immersed for 35 days. When the body was finally removed, the risk was enormous. If the solution failed, the body would collapse into decay. Instead, the tissue was stable, the structure intact, decomposition halted. The ancient method had worked. This experiment revealed something profound. The ancient Egyptians were not guessing. They understood human anatomy, bacterial behavior, chemical preservation, and long-term stability of tissue. They achieved immortality not through magic, but through science. Sometimes progress doesn't mean moving forward. Sometimes it means looking back. Because long before modern laboratories existed, there were people who already knew how to defeat time itself, and their knowledge still speaks from beyond the grave. To modern minds, the ancient Egyptian afterlife sounds like mythology, but to the Egyptians, it was a system, a process with rules, with requirements, with consequences. They believed that after death, the soul split into different parts, each with a role to play, but none of them could survive if the body itself was destroyed. Preserving the body was not about vanity, it was about eligibility for eternity. According to Egyptian belief, every soul faced judgment. The heart was placed on a scale. On the other side, a feather representing truth and order. If the heart was heavier than the feather, the soul would be destroyed forever. This is why the heart had to remain inside the body. Without it, there could be no judgment, no afterlife, no rebirth. To remove the heart was to erase a person completely. One detail often overlooked is how lifelike the best mummies appear. This was intentional. Facial features were preserved, limbs carefully wrapped, hands positioned with purpose. The Egyptians believed recognition mattered. The soul had to recognize its body when returning from the afterlife. If the body looked unfamiliar, the reunion could fail. So embalmers became artists as well as scientists. Not all mummies were created equal. There was a period in Egyptian history when mummification reached its absolute peak. During this era, bodies lasted longer, features remained softer, skin retained elasticity, internal preservation was unmatched. Modern researchers now believe this was when techniques like natron immersion were perfected. Knowledge was passed secretly, restricted to elite embalmers. This wasn't common practice, it was state-level science. So why did this knowledge disappear? Empires fell, priests died, trade routes collapsed. Techniques that required precision were abandoned for cheaper, faster methods. By the time historians arrived, only fragments of the truth remained. What survived were the bodies, silent evidence of a forgotten mastery. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Modern embalming preserves bodies for funerals, not for eternity. Formaldehyde slows decay, it does not stop it. Yet ancient Egyptian mummies have survived thousands of years without modern chemicals. This forces scientists to admit something rare. In at least one area, the ancient world outperformed the modern one. The Egyptians didn't want to live forever on Earth. They wanted continuity, to exist beyond death, to be remembered, to matter. Mummification was not about cheating death, it was about preparing for what comes next. Today, we fear death. The Egyptians prepared for it. They studied it, respected it, engineered solutions around it. And in doing so, they left behind a message carved into time. Death is not the opposite of life, it is part of it. If you enjoy stories that challenge what we think we know about history, subscribe, because the past isn't silent, we just forgot how to listen.